The first hyena did not run. It walked in slowly, head low, ears torn, eyes fixed on the lioness as if it already knew she could not stand. The sun was high above the dry plains of Kifaru Valley. The grass was yellow and brittle. Heat waves shimmered above the ground. In the middle of that open land lay a pregnant lioness named Amara. Her belly was heavy and round. Her breathing was uneven. Each breath looked like work. Dust clung to her fur, and her sides trembled with pain that came in sharp waves. She had left her pride at dawn, following an old instinct to hide when the time came to give birth. She chose a thin patch of grass near a cluster of shrubs, far from water, far from help. She thought she was alone. She was wrong. The hyena stopped 10 steps away. It did not attack. It watched. Its nose lifted slightly, catching the scent of blood and birth. Then another shape appeared from the brush. And another. Within moments, 5 hyenas stood around her in a loose circle. Their bodies were thin but strong. Their jaws were dark and stained. They were not in a hurry. Hunger had taught them patience. Amara lifted her head. She tried to rise, but her legs shook and gave way. A deep growl rolled from her chest, low and tired. It was not the roar of a queen defending her land. It was the warning of a mother who had nothing left but will. A sharp pain tore through her body. She tensed. The first cub was coming. The hyenas shifted closer. One of them laughed, a short, broken sound that did not belong in the quiet heat. Another moved behind her, testing her blind side. They were careful. They had seen this before. A mother trapped between life and death. Amara swiped at the closest one. Her claws caught fur but not flesh. The hyena jumped back, then returned, more confident now. Another wave of pain hit her harder. She clenched her jaw. The world blurred for a second. And then, beneath her tail, something small and wet slid into the dust. A cub. Tiny. Weak. Alive. The cub tried to breathe, making a soft sound that barely reached the air. Amara turned her body as much as she could, curling around the newborn. Her tongue brushed its head once, fast and desperate. But she could not clean it fully. Another contraction was already building. The circle grew tighter. One hyena stepped forward and snapped at the ground near the cub, testing her speed. Amara struck again, this time landing a shallow cut across its muzzle. Blood dotted the dry grass. The hyenas did not retreat. They waited. Because they knew she was losing strength. And in the still air of Kifaru Valley, with no pride in sight and no escape left, the second wave of birth began while the predators closed in. The second pain was worse. It bent Amara's body forward and stole the air from her lungs. Her claws dug into the dirt. The cub beneath her chest squirmed, blind and searching for warmth. She tried to move it closer to her belly, but her legs trembled too hard to hold steady. The hyenas saw it. They edged closer, step by step, forming a tighter ring. Their shoulders brushed each other now. Their eyes did not blink. One of them rushed in suddenly, snapping at the afterbirth still trailing behind her. Amara spun with all the force she had left and struck hard. This time her claws hit flesh. A hyena yelped as red lines opened across its shoulder. But the effort cost her. Her breath came short and sharp. Her head lowered for a second too long. Another contraction tore through her. She could not fight and give birth at the same time. Her body forced her to choose. The second cub began to emerge. The hyenas understood what that meant. One darted in from the side and bit at her hind leg. Its teeth sank into fur and skin. Amara roared, a raw sound that cracked across the dry land. She twisted and kicked, managing to shove it back, but more were ready. Dust exploded into the air as 2 hyenas lunged together. One aimed for her flank. The other aimed lower. Amara swung again, catching one across the ear. But she was slowing down. Blood darkened the fur on her leg. Her vision flickered. The second cub slipped free and fell into the grass behind her. For one terrible second she could not reach it. A hyena saw the movement and rushed toward the tiny shape. Amara forced herself forward, ignoring the fire in her muscles. She threw her body over both cubs, covering them as best as she could. Teeth snapped inches from her face. Hot breath washed over her. She growled again, but the sound was weak now. The hyenas began to test her from all sides. Quick bites. Fast retreats. Each move meant to drain her, not kill her. They were waiting for the moment she could no longer lift her head. And that moment was close. One hyena managed to grab a mouthful of fur from her side. Another nipped at her tail. The first cub cried louder now, thin and frightened. The second barely moved. Amara's strength was fading. Her paws slipped in the dust. She tried to stand one last time, but her back legs collapsed under her weight. She landed hard, breath knocked out of her. The hyena sensed it instantly. They closed in. One stepped forward boldly, jaws opening wide, ready to make the final move. And then, from the brush behind them, something heavy struck the ground. Not running. Not rushing. Just one solid, deliberate step. The hyenas froze. The hyenas did not understand the sound at first. It was not a roar. Not a growl. Not the pounding run of another lion. It was slower than that. The second step followed. Heavy. Controlled. Close. The nearest hyena turned its head toward the shrubs behind them. Its ears twitched. The others hesitated, confused by something they could not yet see. Then the brush parted. A massive dark shape stepped into the open. It was a gorilla. He did not belong to this dry land. His thick black fur looked strange against the yellow grass. His chest was wide. His arms hung long and powerful at his sides. Dust clung to his shoulders as if he had walked far. He did not charge. He did not shout. He simply walked forward, one slow step at a time. The hyenas backed away without meaning to. Instinct pulled them back. This was not prey. This was not something they hunted. The boldest hyena tried to hold its ground. It gave a sharp bark, testing the stranger. The gorilla stopped. He lifted his head slightly and looked at the pack. His eyes were steady. Come. But there was no fear in them. The air shifted. Amara could barely lift her head, but she saw him. Her vision blurred at the edges, yet she understood one thing clearly. The hyenas were no longer focused on her. They were focused on him. One hyena darted forward suddenly, trying to snap at his leg. The gorilla moved faster than expected. His arm swung in a short, brutal motion. His hand struck the hyena across the face. The sound cracked through the clearing. The hyena tumbled sideways, yelping, scrambling to its feet with blood on its snout. The others stepped back farther now. The gorilla did not chase them. He did not beat his chest. He simply took another step forward, placing himself between the pack and the lioness. His back now faced Amara and her cubs. He stood like a wall. The hyenas circled at a distance, restless and angry. They paced. They laughed nervously. Hunger still burned in their eyes, but uncertainty had replaced confidence. One more tried to rush in from the side. The gorilla bent, grabbed a stone from the ground and hurled it with sharp force. It struck the dirt inches from the hyena's face. Dust exploded upward. That was enough. One by one, the hyenas began to retreat. Not running at first. Just stepping back. Then turning. Then disappearing into the tall grass. Their shapes faded into the heat waves. Silence returned to the valley. The gorilla remained standing for a long moment, listening, making sure they were truly gone. Behind him, Amara's breathing was thin and shaky. The first cub pressed weakly against her fur. The second lay still, barely moving. Slowly, carefully, the gorilla turned around for the first time. His eyes met the lioness. There was no challenge in his stare. Only awareness. Only choice. And in that quiet space between them, something unspoken passed. The danger had stepped back. But the night was coming. The sun began to sink and with it the heat changed. The air no longer felt dry. It felt heavy. The gorilla stayed where he was, seated now but still alert, his body facing outward. Amara lay behind him, her strength nearly gone. The first cub had found her belly and was trying to nurse. The second cub's chest rose only slightly, each breath slower than the last. Amara tried to clean them, but her tongue moved weakly. Her head dropped back to the ground. The valley had grown too quiet. No birds called from the trees. No insects buzzed in the grass. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then a new scent slipped into the clearing. Smoke. Not strong at first. Just a thin thread in the air. The gorilla lifted his head. His nostrils widened as he tested the wind. He stood slowly and turned toward the eastern ridge. A faint orange glow touched the edge of the sky. Far away something was burning. Amara sensed it too. Her ears twitched. She tried to rise again, but her legs shook violently. She managed to push herself halfway up before collapsing back down. The stronger cub let out a small cry. The weaker one did not move at all. The wind returned suddenly, sharper now. It pushed through the dry grass and carried more smoke with it. Tiny flakes of ash drifted down like gray snow. The gorilla stepped closer to Amara. He did not rush. He did not panic. But there was urgency in the way he moved. The orange glow in the sky grew brighter. The fire was spreading across the dry hills, feeding on grass that had not seen rain in weeks. Amara opened her eyes one last time. She looked at the gorilla. There was no fear in her gaze. No anger. Only exhaustion. Only a mother's last measure of care. With great effort, she nudged the stronger cub forward, away from her chest and toward the space between her and the gorilla. The cub rolled weakly onto its side. The gorilla understood. He crouched low and extended one massive arm. His hand closed gently around the small body, lifting it carefully against his chest. The cub did not fight. It pressed into the thick fur, seeking warmth. Smoke thickened around them. Amara turned her head toward the second cub. She curled her body around it, shielding it from the wind. Her breathing slowed. The gorilla stood tall again, the living cub held securely against him. Behind them, the first flames began to appear at the far edge of the valley, flickering through the grass like restless shadows. The wind roared louder. The gorilla looked at Amara one final time. She had closed her eyes. And this time she did not open them again. Without hesitation, he turned and began walking toward the low riverbed beyond the clearing, carrying the small life she had chosen to save. The fire followed the wind. But he moved faster. The riverbed was dry, but it was lower than the plains. The ground there was packed and hard. Fewer bushes grew in that dip of land. Fire would not move easily through stone and bare soil. The gorilla reached the bottom just as the wind grew wild. Behind him, flames climbed the tall grass. The sound was loud now. Not like thunder. Not like rain. It was a constant crackle, sharp and hungry. He sat with his back against a large rock, turning his body so the cub was protected from the smoke. He bent forward slightly, forming a wall with his chest and arms. The cub trembled but stayed alive. Its tiny mouth opened and closed against his fur. It could not see. It did not know who held it. It only knew warmth. Ash fell around them. The sky above the valley turned deep orange, then dark gray. The fire raced along the ridge but slowed when it reached the rocky slope. Flames licked at the edges of the riverbed, searching for more to burn, but there was little to take. The gorilla stayed still. Smoke drifted over them in waves. He lowered his head and breathed through his arm, shielding the cub from the worst of it. Hours passed. The fire moved on, chasing dry grass farther north. The crackling faded into distant pops. The wind softened. The night returned, heavy and quiet. Above, stars slowly appeared through the thinning smoke. When the air finally cleared enough to breathe easily, the gorilla lifted his head. The valley was no longer golden. It was black and gray. Burnt. Silent. He did not go back to the clearing. He did not need to. Morning came slowly. A pale light spread across the land, revealing what the fire had spared and what it had taken. The cub stirred against him. A small sound escaped its mouth. Weak but stronger than before. The gorilla looked down at it. He adjusted his grip, careful and steady. He rose to his feet and walked along the riverbed where green plants still survived near patches of damp soil. Life always clung to the lowest ground. The cub would need milk, warmth, protection. The gorilla could not give milk, but he could give time. He moved toward the thicker trees beyond the valley, where shade was deeper and the air held more moisture. A place where other animals might pass. A place where survival had a chance. Behind him, the burned plains of Kifaru Valley lay quiet under the rising sun. Far above, a single bird circled once and flew on. The lioness was gone. The hyenas were gone. The fire had passed. But in the arms of a creature that did not share its blood, a small lion cub was still breathing. And sometimes in a world ruled by hunger and fear, breathing is the first miracle.